Right, so today I wanted to talk about an interesting topic which I've been thinking about for quite a while. It's been quite a slow news day in the NBA recently, so I thought let's talk about some reasons why some players win everything and some players will probably never win, and some players that have never won a championship. Now, I thought it was quite interesting. I was reading this article about, I think it was the top 10 players to never win a championship before. And even some still playing, such as Chris Paul and Damian Lillard, have never won a championship. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the players and some of the reasons. A lot of times, in my opinion, reading through a lot of these players on the list that I've seen, is because they stay at the same team which isn't competing and isn't a franchise which is doing their best to build a team around them to make them a contender and challenge for a title, essentially. You see this with guys such as Damian Lillard, who for some reason still hasn't left the Blazers, which I think would be the benefit of him. You see this with Bradley Beal, who stays at the Washington Wizards, and a lot of times this has to do with them being settled with a family in these cities and they don't want to move all the way to a different part of America. Now, for example, me, I live in the UK, right? So say you were in London and you moved to Manchester to play for a different football team, for example. That's a decent amount, and not a lot of players would really want to do that and move their family, their kids, and change their whole lifestyle. When you think of America, how big it is, imagine him moving to Toronto, for example, where now he's got to be in a completely different city, even a completely different country, where he's now got to play basketball, move his whole family, and change his whole life. Now, that is one of the main reasons I think a lot of these players don't move. I don't think it's as much about loyalty as people say it is, for example. I think it's more about these people being settled in a city where they know what's going on, they are happy with their life, and their kids are happy with their life, and their family just doesn't want to leave it. And a lot of times, this is the reason. This is the reason for Damian Lillard. I think this was the reason for John Stockton as well, staying at the Jazz with Karl Malone. Also, their issue there was Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan did have a lot of influence on a lot of these players, such as Reggie Miller, who stayed loyal to the Indiana Pacers. Michael Jordan actually had a lot to do with a lot of these players not winning championships, actually. And a lot of times it proves to be these smaller market franchises that these stars are on, for example, that mean that they're not winning the rings that they should deserve. Teams like the Lakers, which dominated, teams like the Bulls, which dominated, and teams like the Celtics, which have dominated, have stopped these smaller market teams, such as the Trail Blazers, from winning a title with their stars like Damian Lillard. Even the Golden State Warriors now stopping teams from winning titles now. And it does seem to be the big boys always winning it. For example, 17 championships respectively for the Celtics and the Lakers. And even now, even if players do try and move, for example, you have Chris Paul, who's tried to move to several different teams. I don't feel like he's made the move to the title contenders yet, though. He's always moved to a middling team and then made them a title contender. He's not done, for example, what KD's done. And this is the opposite side of the argument, where players move to different places where they know they're going to win a title. For example, people like to talk about KD, people like to talk about LeBron, and I think they are valid points, because LeBron and KD, especially KD, knew what he was doing by moving in free agency to the best team in the league. There's not much more which you could have done. He won 2 finals MVPs though. He got his rings, and now he's probably going to move to another contender to try and do the same thing, right? And that's how a lot of these players do it. For example, you got KG, even Kevin Garnett, who moved to the Celtics from the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, who didn't really have a chance of winning a championship, and he moved to one of the most prestigious teams in the NBA to win a championship. And that's what a lot of players have to do. But a lot of times, like Damian Lillard, like we've spoken about, who wants to stay in the city of Portland and the team that he enjoys playing for, it means that they're not getting the chance that they really deserve. Because realistically, the small market teams, they find it hard to build on these star players and build the appropriate team around them, because they've never really done it before, for example. And also, a lot of great teams have made it so other teams can't win championships. Charles Barkley is only one of 6 players in the NBA to average plus 22 points per game and plus 11 rebounds per game, and he hasn't won a championship. But again, with Charles Barkley, who was it again? Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan he ruined so many players' chances of winning a title. So many great players we've seen not win a title because of Michael Jordan. And that's mad, because Michael Jordan is obviously the best player of all time, and the fact that he has stopped these like great players from winning titles is crazy. And obviously he deserves to win those titles. He was the best player of all time. But it is interesting seeing the list of players. I think even on that top 10 list that I was reading from, I think like 4 out of the 10 were stopped winning championships in the finals because of Michael Jordan. And that's crazy. The Lakers have stopped people from winning championships. The Celtics have. The Warriors have. I've said this before, but it's just interesting how some players can't seem to catch a break. For example, in modern times, people are going on about Chris Paul being a bottle job. He's one of the best point guards of all time. Yeah, so Chris Paul is 37 years old, and we're acting like he should be the best player in the league. Like, he's 37 going on 38 years old, and people are calling him a bottle job. He's one of the best players to ever play in the NBA as a point guard, and people are saying that he's a bottle job because he's lost so many of these playoff situations. Fair enough, really, because he obviously needs to win that championship to be cemented as one of the best players of all time. But you can still be one of the greatest players of all time and not win a championship, shown by players like Allen Iverson, Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley, Steve Nash, Dominique Wilkins. Like, these players are amazing. Even Vince Carter, over a 22-year period, did not win a championship because he didn't move to title contending teams within the latter years of his career. And then even at a prestigious franchise such as the New York Knicks, Patrick Ewing could not even win a championship. With the joint oldest team in NBA history, he could still not win a championship. Even at a franchise so prestigious as the New York Knicks, he still couldn't do it. And then even Pistol Pete couldn't win a championship. The smaller market teams struggle so much with winning these championships. And it's really a shame because a lot of the greats, they don't have a ring. And it goes on to the point, should these players stay loyal to these teams? And I always think, if I was a smaller market team, that's really all you've got. You've got these players. Like, for example, the Timberwolves always have KG to remember as their greatest ever player. So it gives them something. But then you've got players that stayed with the team, like these smaller market teams, and won something. Like you've got Dirk, for example, at the Mavs, who obviously is the biggest legend at the Mavs of all time. So would you want to be that player, or would you want to be KG, who moved to the Celtics and won a championship there? It's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's all about management and building the team right, whereas all these super teams and stuff were created, and the best player of all time got in a lot of these players' way. And even the greatest players of all time in this period, such as LeBron James, it's always going to happen. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, it's always going to happen where these great players get overtaken by the best players of all time, because that's just what the game is. It's who's the best, who's going to win the championship. And obviously sometimes you'll get anomalies such as the Raptors winning it, or even the LA Lakers with LeBron James, because that's the LeBron James factor. But you'll get anomalies, but teams tend to dominate over a period of time, and you get bits in between where other teams can win it, but usually it's the same kind of teams because they've assembled the greatest team of that kind of generation. For example, you've got the Warriors, who've won 4. You could say any LeBron team, he's won 4 as well. So it's interesting to look at why these players haven't won and why they should still be considered some of the greatest of all time. Because obviously winning a championship is a major part of legacy. However, it doesn't mean that the players that didn't win the championships shouldn't be part of the greatest of all time conversation. Like, some players just don't get the team built around them, or some players get outdone by Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Steph Curry or even Bill Russell at those times, or Wilt Chamberlain, or even going back to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. No one really else had a chance. So it's hard to say. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. I just wanted to make this video because it's been a bit of a slow news day in the NBA and I needed to make something. So I thought, good title, nice thumbnail. I'm getting better at making them now if people are seeing them. So yeah, I really appreciate you watching and thank you for watching.